Well, first of all, I guess it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. And it truly is a great pleasure for me to be here. I can tell you that when I got the call to do this, I got the call from Dave Fandenstein and Mike Higgins from the New England PGA, and I thought, boy, this is a great opportunity. I really do enjoy speaking about golf. I love it. I absolutely am crazy about the golf industry, and I love every minute of it, and I thank God that I have the opportunity to spend my career in such a great, sport of golf and be able to make a living at it. I have to thank some of my sponsors. I have sponsors in Nike Golf and Back Nine Network and Great Blue Research and the PGA Trading Network that also helped me make me available to be able to do this. But it's interesting because I think I'm having more fun after being the president of the PGA than I had being the president of the PGA. And what I mean by that is now I can sort of get out and be who I am. I can say what's on my mind, and instead of my prepared speaking points and what we're trying to get across that day, I can give more of my opinion. And so today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what David just spoke to you about a little later on in the 40-minute presentation I have, and I promise I'll get you to lunch on time. I'm going to speak a little bit about growing golf a little bit later on in the speech. I'm going to talk to you a little bit at the beginning here about some of the great experiences I had representing all of you. And what I mean is representing New England as the president of the PGA of America. I think a lot of people don't really understand what that's all about, and I'm going to try to help you to understand maybe what that period of time was like and how the ability to be able to volunteer and be involved and be part of something bigger than you can just make your life so much better. And I know that I'm speaking to the choir a little bit here because you're all involved with your associations or your clubs or you're working in the industry. And so what I want to do is I hope when we're done today you feel excited about being involved in this great sport, because I truly believe it is a blessing to be able to be involved in it. So that's what I'm going to talk about. First, I'm going to talk a little bit to you about spending literally nearly 30 years of involvement with an association, culminating with becoming the president of the PGA of America. Now, granted, it came as a surprise to the 27,000 members of the association that the president of the PGA would come from the absolute epicenter, the hotbed of golf in the world today, Ludlow, Vermont. Population 2,500 people, right? And I end up as president of the PGA of America. It was because I had a great team around me. Guys like Donnie Lyons and Steve Napoli and Eddie Carboni and Mike Higgins and all the guys in the New England section who really helped me to get to that point. But it really came from 30 years of involvement. It all started with just one statement in one pro shop in 1984. I was at a pro member event. I was new to Vermont, and I went into the pro shop after a pro member event, and I mentioned to the pro at the club, I said, I know I'm new to the chapter. If there's anything I can ever do to help the Vermont chapter, please let me know. I'd love to help. Said my thank yous, walked out the door. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. A board member from the chapter was leaving to move to another section, and they asked me if I would fill that board seat for the remainder of his 2-year term. And I became a chapter board member, and I was off and running. And literally, that catapulted me to stay involved and be part of something, my association, which culminated with becoming the president. But how did I get in golf? Well, first of all, I was not a golfer as a kid. I was a baseball player and a football player and a ski racer. And I loved sports. And all I wanted to do was be in sports. That's all I wanted to do. In school, I can remember every moment I had was thinking about how can I make a living in sports? How can I make a living in sports? And it ended up, although a pretty good baseball player and a pretty good football player, that wasn't where it was going. So I ended up being in the ski business, actually. And I'll relate to this a little bit later on when I talk about growing a sport. And so I was in the ski business for 6 or 7 years, and played golf. I played golf a little bit when I was younger with my dad and was a pretty good athlete. But I met a PGA pro, and I needed a summer job really bad. I mean, I was in the ski business. I was going to make my fame and fortune as a skier, and I really needed a summer job bad. And I met a pro in Vermont who helped to get me in touch with George Weems from the Langley section, and I wrote a few letters. And lo and behold, only one guy called me back, and that was Ray LaJoie at Worcester Country Club. And I can remember going to my interview in 1979 or 80, I guess it was. I'd never been to a private country club. I'd never been inside the gates or the road of a private country club in my entire life. I'm a blue-collar kid from Massachusetts who grew up pulling my dad's, pull cart, and my mom, he worked in a factory, and I didn't even know private country clubs existed. And by this time, I had experience in management of a ski company, and I went to my interview at Worcester Country Club, and they brought me into the boardroom upstairs in the beautiful Worcester Country Club. It was the biggest table I'd ever seen. Oh my God. It was unbelievable. I didn't even know tables like that existed. Well, I got an interview, and I got the job, and I was off and running. And 2 weeks into the business, I loved golf. I wanted to be doing that for the rest of my life. And I'll never forget, Ray LaJoie said, "Well, kid, you think you're going to make it?" And I said, "Not only am I going to make it, but I'm going to be a head professional in 4 years. I'm going to get my own job. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life." He laughed at me. All right? He said, "Yeah, you don't know anything, kid. You got a lot to learn." Well, today, I'm still involved with Worcester Country Club. Steve Ayers is in the audience today. Because of Steve Ayers and the wonderful board members of the Worcester Country Club, today I'm an honorary member, the 6th honorary member of that club. They've only given that to 6 individuals over the course of 100 years. And I'm proud to be that because I stayed connected with them. And thanks, Steve. So I got my start, and I wanted to get involved. I got involved, and I went on to do so many things. Went through and was the president of the New England PGA section. And once that happened, I didn't know, where do I go from here? Where do I go? What can I do? And Donnie Lyons and Eddie Carboni and some of the guys who knew Steve Napoli, many of you know all these people, encouraged me to run for national office. And I said, the worst thing that can happen if I run for national office is that I'll lose terribly and I'll go home and I'll have a great life in the golf business. I might do fairly well and be encouraged to do it again. There's no way in the world I'm going to win, so I'm not even going to think about that. Well, lo and behold, we won. I woke up in Amelia Island in 2004, having won a national election, the hardest fought national election. And now, this isn't like other associations. You got to win the election, all right? It was the hardest fought election in the history of the PGA of America since 1916. There were 7 candidates from all over the country. It took the longest number of ballots in the history of the association to elect me, and I woke up in Amelia Island that day, and I was just blown away by the fact that I was going to be president of the PGA of America and represent 27,000 members of our association, men and women who go to work every single day in this association and work tremendously hard every day to grow this great sport. So I'm proud of that. What did it mean? Well, here's what it meant. Over the next 8 years, I spent more than 1,000 nights in hotel rooms. I traveled by airplane over 1.6 million miles. And I represented our association at some of the most unbelievable events that you can ever imagine. The memories that I have are just really incredible. 4 Ryder Cups, including Celtic Manor in 2010, where I was the president of the PGA, and I was the spokesperson for the United States of America. How cool was that? I got up in front of 40,000 people at Celtic Manor and gave the opening and closing speeches for the United States team. Jim Remy from Ludlow, Vermont. To my left, Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods. To my right, Graham McDowell and Padraig Harrington. Oh my God. What a moment that was. I didn't tell you there were 900 million homes watching the telecast. It was incredible. What a memory. 8 PGA championships, 2 of which I had the opportunity to present the Wanamaker Trophy. And how exciting is that? National TV, CBS Sports, interviews with Jim Nantz live, all this stuff. Just just having so much fun. And I loved every minute of it. It was great. And there I was, Hazeltine, 2009, Tiger Woods, about to win his 15th major championship. 18th hole. I'm practicing my speech. Congratulations, Tiger, on winning your 15th major championship, your 64th win, or whatever it was at the time. Congratulations, Tiger Woods, the Wanamaker Trophy. I'm ready. Wai Yang hits a shot over the trees. I'm watching it come in. The ball lands. And I'm presenting to a Korean who can't speak English with a golf bag over his head. How cool was that? All right, 2010, the PGA Championship at Whistling Straits. I'm standing behind the green. They're coming up 18. I'm getting ready to present the Wanamaker Trophy. I got a radio on my hip. All of a sudden, this thing lights up like it was on fire. We may have had a penalty on the 18th hole to Dustin Johnson. We're reviewing it in the trailer. My first reaction as president of the PGA was, where do I hide? All right? I wanted to melt into the woodwork. I can just see this happening right now. Great story there. You know, first of all, Dustin Johnson handled that like a true professional. He really did. I mean, it cost him a PGA championship. But he handled it like an incredible professional. But the real story behind this, and some of the USGA people and the rules people in the room, most people don't know that the forward observer, first of all 1,200 bunkers at Whistling Straits were deemed to be bunkers. So, and it was notified everyone the entire week of that. And the forward observer, which actually was a past president, notified the caddy, when the caddy walked to the ball, he said to the caddy, "You've got a good break, you have a nice flat lie in the bunker." So he basically told him it was a bunker. When the rules official that was with that group walked up, he was the chairman of the rules committee, he also went to Dustin and said, "Are you all set here? Do you need any assistance?" And Dustin and the caddy said, No, we're all set, we're all set. We all know he ground his club in the bunker and lost the PGA Championship, major championship. It was an incredible moment, and I presented the trophy to Martin Keimer, a German. So it was an interesting time. I mean, just so much fun to be involved in that. I attended numerous U.S. Opens. I served on the Rules Committee at the Masters. That's right, the Rules Committee at the Masters. Jim Remy from Ludlow, Vermont, for 8 years. And here's what they told me. Now, for all you rules officials that are in the room, I have great respect for you. I know you've been through a lot to be real rules officials. I was a PGA professional who was great at running rules during the member guest, not at Augusta National. So being a rules official at Augusta, for me, for 8 years, I always refer to it as hours of boredom and seconds of sheer panic. When they go like this and they want to talk to me. So I try to hide. I had some great times being a rules official. The point is I was not one of the real rules officials. I was one of the official rules, unofficial rules official. And they gave me a radio and said, anything more than relief from a hazard, call us. But I was a rules official at Augusta, so I want you to know it's on the resume. I met and played golf with two presidents, President Bush and President Obama. I had some incredible experiences, like laying the wreath in Arlington National Cemetery on behalf of 27,000 members. I got to represent 27,000 members during the wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. And I mean, what a moment that was. Just incredible. I had the opportunity to present posthumous membership to 5 black individuals who never were allowed to be members of our association. Our association until the late 60s had a Caucasian-only clause. Amazing as it may sound. And there were some wonderful golf professionals, 4 golf professionals and someone who was really great at golf, who never had the opportunity to be part of our association just because of the color of their skin. And I was the president that had the opportunity to right that wrong, to give those families membership into the PGA of America posthumously at the meeting in New Orleans. That was John Shippen, Ted Rose, Bill Spiller, and Joe Lewis. Incredible opportunity. I can remember I could hear a pin drop in the room when it was time. It was just fantastic. And I got to represent the PGA of America at numerous, obviously, member events where you're there for the membership and you're representing the membership. Just a great opportunity to meet and understand a lot about how great this industry is. So you can see, I've had a tremendous experience. And I'm so proud of the fact that I was able to represent New England. Because to this day, they still introduce me as the first president of the PGA of America in the history of the PGA from 1916. And keep in mind, we were a charter section in 1916. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud that I have the opportunity to represent New England golf. Because, the rest of the world, they don't really see New England as great as it is. This is a wonderful place to play golf. And I know so many of you represent such great clubs right here in Massachusetts and Rhode Island in this section of our great area. All right, so we'll get off of that for now. I'll be glad to answer any questions later on. I'm going to try to leave about 10 minutes so that we can do some questions and answers. You can ask me anything. Don't worry about it. I love to answer questions. I don't care whether you ask me what it's like to play with Tiger Woods or, how nervous were you the first time you gave a speech in front of millions of people. So I'll answer anything. So we'll get to that at the end. But I want to talk to you a little bit about growing golf. And, David, so much of what David said earlier is right on. There's no question about it. We need to take a hard look at how we grow golf. And there's a reason for it. Number one, it's declining. And I'm going to get into a few statistics in a minute. I'm going to get into a few thoughts that are going to make you think differently than you have thought before. And I want to begin by giving you a disclaimer. This is my disclaimer. During the next part of this presentation, I in no way represent the PGA of America. This is my opinion. It's somebody who's been in this industry for 35 years, somebody who's been in all levels of the industry for 35 years. I've been involved in 10 years of meetings on how to grow golf at some of the highest levels, including with the USGA and the GCSA and the British PGA and the Chinese PGA and the Japanese PGA. You should try to go through interpreters and talk about this stuff. It's a lot of fun. So the disclaimer is this is me talking. All right? It's not the PGA. So don't go out of here and write a story that the PGA said this. If you want to say Jim Remy said it, that's okay. So where the heck are we in this business? Well, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that first. I'm not going to talk about specific programs and events. What I'm going to talk to you about is change and how golf is perceived and how I believe we must change. So let's look back for a minute. 10 to 12 years ago, golf was booming. Pretty much, here's how, as an operator, and many of our operators operated. We charged them as much as we could. We sent them to the first tee and told them to hurry up. And said, you're breaking rules. That's what we were doing. I mean, I go back to my records from 2005, 2004. I can't believe the rounds we were doing compared to what we're doing today. Okay, we were building courses at record paces because somebody told us we were going to need to build one a day in order to keep up with the demand. We upgraded our service in an effort to be able to charge more. We gave people incredible experiences and we charged them for it. So our fees went higher and higher. We built long and very difficult golf courses because difficult golf courses become famous. Not necessarily profitable, but they become famous. We maintained them at championship levels. Everything was Augusta National. Every day. We made them so perfect because it had to be that good every day. We were rocking and we were rolling. And we were on top of the world. And life was good. There was no end in sight. The sky's the limit. Golf will never fail. All right. That's wrong. Because here's what happened. From 2002 to 2012, rounds dropped by 14%. Total golfers participating dropped by 11%. Some statistics show that in spite of all the junior programs we have today, between 2012, we lost 39% of our juniors. The percent of population playing golf during that time frame dropped by 15%. And players who played more than 25 times per year dropped by 33%. So we were not attracting new players, and our players were playing less. All right? And guess what we did? We kept building courses, and we kept charging more. Because now we had to charge more. All this happened at a time when the PGA of America, the United States Golf Association, the National Golf Course Owners Association, the GCSA, and everyone else that supported golf was doing everything they could to grow the sport. We had Play Golf America. We had Get Golf Ready. We had Bring Your Daughter to the Golf Course. Bring your son to the golf course. Bring your dog to the golf. Bring somebody to the golf course. We had Tee It Forward, Tee It Backward. We had tees in the middle of fairways. We did everything we possibly could to grow, and it kept sinking. So, we blamed the recession. Well, it's a recession. It's a recession. We blame the attention span of the generation. This generation can't pay attention. They don't know what's going on. It's the damn Blackberries. We get rid of those things, they play more golf. We blame them. Okay? We blame demographics. We're all getting old. Well, maybe. And we certainly blamed expense. So we did a bunch of consumer research. PGA of America spent $1 million on consumer research to find out what was going on. And after $1 million was spent, here's what they came back with. It costs too much, it takes too long, and it's too difficult. Duh. And I okayed the $1 million, by the way. Okay, so that's what they told us. And what have we done about it? Have we changed? Did we do anything differently? We created more programs. We pretty much kept going in the same light. So here's my thoughts. We must begin to think differently than ever before. Now, for you traditionalists in the room, if I offend you, I'm sorry, but we must begin to think differently than we've ever thought before. And trust me, I love the tradition of our sport. I love it. I honor it, and I think it's important, and we should maintain it. But let's get people playing and then teach them tradition. Don't try to get them to play because of tradition. I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. Let's take a look at a couple other sports. All right. What if I told you that today we have 24 million golfers, give or take? Depends who you listen to. We're down from 27 or 28 million as a high. But what if I told you there was a sport in the United States where there are 30 million active participants, and the reason they're active is because of two main reasons. Number one, it's a family sport. Okay? They do it with the family. And they have maintained a relative, through the recession, through the demographics, through the generation, through all this, they've maintained relatively good numbers because it's a family sport. They do it together as families. And oh yeah, it's something I failed to mention. 35% of the facility is designed specifically for beginners. How many of us have 35% of our facilities designed for someone who just took up the sport? We don't. It's called skiing. They introduced a new way of selling it called snowboarding. if they have maintained relative stable numbers throughout the recession, because and when snowboarding was first, allowed, many skiers wouldn't even allow it. They said, no, that'll never work. We can't do that. We can't mix skiers and snowboarders. Now 25% of the marketplace today is snowboarders, and they still have maintained relatively the same numbers. So they thought differently. They adjusted. And they sold it as a family sport. All right, 24 million golfers now, right? How about a sport that has 70 million participants on an annual basis? 70 million people partake in this sport. Ready for this? You can do it any amount of time you want. You can do it 15 minutes or 4 hours. Doesn't matter. You pick how much time you want to do it. All right? It's really inexpensive. If you don't have any equipment, we got it for you, and we're not going to charge you much to have the equipment. And oh yeah, if you're not very good, we'll make it so you can't fail. Bowling. Gutter guys. I went bowling a couple of years ago, and I was watching the people next door to me. They could barely roll the ball, but the gutter guard kept that ball in, and they jumped up and down, and they had a ball. What they did was they addressed beginners. 70 million people bowl. 90 million people in America hunt, fish, and partake in outdoor activities. We think tennis is dead in America. They have 10 million more participants than we do. There are some reports there are 250,000 tennis courts in America. And yet they still have 34 million people, and we think it's dead. And they say the reason for their decline is the lack of U.S. superstars. But we don't have that, do we? We have U.S. superstars. Here are some things that I think we've got to do. We've got to change the way we think. Now, you may not agree with these, but I think it will make you think about how we are going to grow golf. Number one, we have to begin the process of listening to our customers and deliver to them what they want. Okay? Not try to convince them to like what we like. We've spent too much time trying to convince people to like golf the way we like it. They have to like it because it's what they need. And we have public courses. 75% of the courses in America are public. 75% of the golf rounds in America are played at public golf courses, 25% are private. If private is going to be healthy down the road, 5 and 10 years from now, it's going to be important that people take up the sport, participate in it, fall in love with it, and aspire to be a member at your clubs. Because you may be okay now, but if we don't do something, the future might not be so bright. So we have to convince people that we have something for them. And a lot of that is nothing more than perception. We're perceived as exclusive, not inclusive. So, and some of it may be reality, some of it isn't. But you can play golf in America for $2 or $2 million. You pick where you want to go. Yet, everything you see talks about exclusivity, talks about private country clubs, high cost, old guys in tight and funny pants and ugly clothes. I mean, we've got to get more welcoming to the masses. We must make our basic golf courses easier and more novice friendly. All right? Deep rough, super fast greens, and deep bunkers just don't cut it on an average everyday basis. I'll give you a quick story about 4 PGA officers playing a private club outside of Valhalla during the Ryder Cup in 2010. The 4 of us officers, all pretty, we're okay, we're pretty good players. We went to a local course to play golf, and they welcomed us in, and we teed off in the first hole. And we went down the first fairway. 3 out of the 4 were in the rough to the left. It took us 10 minutes to find 3 balls. 10 minutes to find 3 balls. The rough was 4 inches deep. We had no one in front of us. It took 4 hours and 50 minutes to play. The fairways were narrow. The rough was deep. It was a nightmare. So I went home to my club in Vermont where we had 3-inch rough, or 2.5 to 3-inch rough, which quickly becomes 4-inch rough. We all know that. And I said to my superintendent, I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try an experiment. And he said, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to lower the height of our rough cut from 2.5 or 3 inches down to 1.5 inches. And I think it's going to speed up play. And that's why I'm doing it. Because we had a speed of play problem. We're a public semi-private resort facility. We tend to get slow on Saturday afternoon. Okay, duh. We get putting people out. So he looks at me and he goes, well, what are we going to do when the members complain? I said, I'll tell you what. I'll call you and let you know the first time I get a complaint. So here's what we did. We cut the rough from 3 inches down to 1.5 inches. Our speed of play went down by 25 minutes. All right. Immediately, our speed of play went down by 25 minutes. And guess what the reaction of everybody at the club was? Never seen the club in such great shape. Boy, it looks beautiful out there. It is just great. We've never raised the height yet. All right. Super fast greens. I've had the opportunity to play Augusta 3 or 4 times, and I've stayed in the cabins. And one of the neat things about Augusta, when you play Augusta and you stay in the cabins, you can watch any Masters you want on internal TV. You can go back as long as they have it on, on film. I can go back and I can look at the Masters from 1952. And so we'd get in there and we'd watch the 1952 Masters. The greens were about this long. The place wasn't manicured at all. You wouldn't even recognize the place, right? Yet we want everything to be Augusta today. We gotta get our green speeds for everyday play. You want to run a championship? We'll cut the greens down. We'll double cut them, so on. But most of these golf courses that are built today are not designed to have super fast greens. We've got to slow them down a little bit because 4-putting is not quick. It's just not, and it's not fun. If you don't have success, guess what? You're going to quit. Our retention has been terrible over the years. We've lost most of the golfers we've taught. Especially in the 80s. We taught millions of women in the 80s. It was really hot. Golf schools were really big in the 80s, and we taught millions of women nationally. And most of them will tell you they quit because it just wasn't any fun. So we got to make it more fun. We got to stop building golf courses with 194 bunkers. It's hard. For everyday play, our golf courses need to be easier. So there's some things you need to do. You need to take a look at your facilities and make them more fun. Jeff Rood, who's one of the great writers in golf today, wrote an article that said, fix golf, focus on faster, friendlier, and more fun, and new players, where new, excuse me, I don't have my glasses on. But anyway, what he's saying in this article is, it needs to be friendlier and more fun. So we've got to do that. It needs to be inclusive, not exclusive. We need to address the novice player and not just throw a tee marker in the middle of the fairway. It's got to be more than that. I built a 4-hole short course at the back of our range where I have 4 holes, 50 to 100 yards, and they love it. They come out and they play with their kids and they do it as families. And I just took a little area in the back of my range and I made it work. I used 3 greens and there's 4 holes and people love it. We need beginner terrain. We need novice terrain. We need to go after the 24 million golfers. And this is what you can do at your club. If we can get 24 million golfers to play 2 more rounds a year, 2 more rounds a year, it's 48 million rounds. There are 60 million lapsed golfers in America who say, I played, I don't play anymore. 60 million people in America say, I don't play anymore because I don't have time, it's not fun. If we can recapture just 10% of those 60 million and get them to play twice a year, we're talking about 12 million rounds. Teaching juniors is fantastic. Teaching beginners is fantastic, but it takes a long time to make a golfer. Let's go after those who are lapsed. Let's spend more time at your clubs. When was the last time you called people who you see are not playing? Get your golf professional and his staff to call people at the club who are members who aren't playing and say, why aren't you playing? Have you forgotten how much you love it? Sometimes you have to remind people what they love. I have a feeling that our future, the word game needs to be changed. This is my opinion, and I'll probably get some of you not like this. But you see, I see golf as a sport. I see it as a sport played by athletes. And whether you're a 59-year-old golf professional in Vermont or Tiger Woods, golf is an athletic endeavor. It's a sport. The younger generation wants to take part in activities that are sports, not games. They don't want to. Chess is a game. Golf is a sport. I believe that if we get the perception that golf is a sport played by athletes, more younger people will want to play. First of all, it's healthy. You're outside. It takes an athletic move to be successful at it. And by the way, people who play golf live longer. It's a fact. They live longer. Okay? It's good for you. When was the last time we really sold golf as a healthy alternative? And that doesn't matter whether you walk or ride. You burn more calories playing golf than you do doing a lot of other things. So these are some things that we really got to begin to think about. And all of us in the industry need to work a little bit harder at that. You know, we need to train our staffs and our leadership to sell golf as fun. And to get people in the club to be positive to, whether it be a private club or a public course, about the activity and the athleticism and the sport of playing golf. Again, we've got to stop trying to people to like it the way we like it. We're going to have to change if we are going to address this new generation. And that's a little different than tradition. You know, I heard one time a leader say, tradition is the enemy of progress. And we have to understand that we've got to respect our tradition and honor our tradition, but we may have to change. And part of that change is going to be thinking differently about how we get people interested and involved in golf. There's no better way to find out what your consumer or your customer wants, whether it be a private club or a public course, than to research and find out as much as you can from them. Do surveys. Find out what they want. Find out what will get them to come to the club more or to play 2 more times a year. Talk to them about the family part of it. But here's an important part. Don't ever give up. Don't give up on golf being successful. When was the last time you brought somebody new? Or you called a friend who you haven't played with in a while? It's up to you, really. And by the way, don't stop playing. Play. I talk to PGA professionals all the time who say, well, I don't play anymore. I don't have any time. You got in the business because you love it. You belong to a club because you love it. Find time to play. Because when you do, you will find that it's the most rewarding thing that you do. And you'll say, why don't I play more? So don't ever give up. Don't stop playing. Don't stop teaching. I always tell instructors, don't stop teaching. But even you as avid golfers, don't stop teaching. Help others. Create new programs for all ages and all levels. And don't rely on a few of the, quote, great players at the club to make all the rules. Many times our clubs make all their rules based on 5 or 10% of the membership. And they set up their golf courses on that. And they don't think about the 90% of people who are 20, 25 handicaps who go out to have fun. So as board members, think about the majority, not the minority. Would the world be a bad place if the stimp was 9 everywhere? I don't think so. I think we'd have just as much fun. It doesn't have to be 13. We don't need 4-inch rough. We don't need 125 bunkers. Take a look at your golf courses and pick out the bunkers on your golf courses that only penalize players who are not that good. The good players never hit it in there. But think of how many bunkers penalize ladies who hit it fairly short or seniors who don't hit it long enough. And think about those bunkers and, God forbid, think about taking them out, making it more fun. So these are some things that we have to do. So, what I talked to you about today was I gave you a little history of my involvement with the PGA, and I talked to you about some maybe a little out of the box ideas about how we need to grow our sport. And I've worked so hard to say sport. It is a sport. We have to think differently. And it's going to take all of us. Because, today's needs in this generation and to get people to focus on something is more difficult than ever. But it means so much to all of us. I mean, it means so much to all of you who love your clubs. And it will affect us all if we really don't get focused on it. So participate, get involved, help others, work with your association, help us all to grow the sport. That's my speech. We've got a few minutes just for questions. I'm running over a little late, and if you don't ask me questions, I'm really going to be offended. So ask me some questions.
Jim, what do you think golf in the Olympics will help again?
That's a really good question. I think golf in the Olympics will help golf in emerging countries where golf is not that popular. I personally don't think it will help in the United States. I don't think we're going to see it as an opportunity for young athletes to participate in the Olympics because it's off the record, this is going to look a lot like a World Golf Championship event. The players will be the same players that you see every week. It's unlikely someone from, Pakistan is going to win the gold medal. So I don't see that as, when that originally came out and was being sold, there was a lot of talk about helping to grow the sport worldwide. I think there will be some countries where it will help because they'll form golf teams, like China is already involved in that, and many of the Korean countries and things like that. It will help some of the emerging areas for golf, but I don't think it's going to have a big impact in the United States. I think there's too many other opportunities for that. Question?
Yeah, Jim, with the game being so difficult, this may be a little blasphemous, but has the PGA ever thought about preferred lies?
Well, that would be a USGA decision. We don't make the rules, and we support the USGA. The USGA and the PGA work side by side. We oftentimes are in advisory. I served on the Equipment Standards Committee during my time in office, and the USGA and the R&A make the rules of golf. Clubs oftentimes have preferred lies. Local rules do come into play. I think, in spite of how we all respect and love the rules, let's face it, a lot of people don't play by them. If the guys agree when they go out, we're going to play preferred lies, they play preferred lies. If they're going to anchor their putter, they're going to anchor their putter anyway. So, I've played preferred lies in major events almost, because of the need to. So, I think it's well, help me. It's there. It can be put into effect, but I don't think you'll see it as a standard of competition. Is that what they call it? Question?
I was curious as to your thoughts on one of the challenges with the core golfer is the heart is one of the primary components of why they enjoy golf. So how would you see the balance between keeping the game hard for that core golfer versus making it fun for the novice golfer?
Yeah. I think, that's a good question. You're going to always have your traditional golf courses. I mean, I'll use Worcester Country Club as an example. Worcester has modernized their golf course, and, it certainly is a more challenging golf course today than it was in the past. They have obviously different tee markers. Now, what I'm saying is that not every golf course has to be easy. I'm saying we have to have easy golf courses. And, we have to have places for people to start. I grew up skiing at a little hill in Massachusetts, and I fell in love with the sport, and then I wanted to go to Vermont and ski in the big ski areas. I grew up playing 9-hole golf course in Leominster called Grandview that was 5,800 yards and had 12 bunkers. I fell in love with the sport, and then I wanted to do more. I'm not saying every golf course needs to be easier. If you have a difficult golf courses, there might be ways to address that by having certain times when you really set up an easy golf course and 4-hole type things, or you did like I did and built 4 easy holes in the back of your range where beginners can go and feel comfortable. Most women have given up the sport because they felt uncomfortable. They felt rushed. They were nervous. We taught them. I can't tell you how many people I taught in the 80s that don't play anymore. So I'm not saying every golf course has to be easy. I'm saying we need to have easy golf courses.
Can you elaborate on your 4-hole course at the back of the range? Did that help you attract new members, or I don't know if it was a membership thing, but
Yeah.
did it help grow the game at your particular?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's where it helped with us. We're a semi-private resort. I have members. I have hotel guests. Stay and play packages, hotel guests. I have local public play. I have every kind of play. It's that semi-resort model where you have everything, semi-private. And what it did was it sort of gave mom and dad opportunity to take the 2 kids out and play 8 holes. It cost $7 to play the 8-hole course because you play it twice. And what we used were target greens that were out on the back of the range anyway. So we didn't build greens. We simply created 4 holes, 50 yards to the longest is 100 yards. And we charge very little. We don't really make any money on it, but we have to maintain the area anyway, and we don't have it open all the time. We have it open during peak times. We have it open on Friday afternoons, Saturday afternoons, and Sunday afternoons because we teach there on Friday morning, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning. So we used it as, okay, we're going to shut it down for teaching at this time, but we're going to open it up to families and beginners, and we give free junior clinics in May there, and it's an entry level. And from a local standpoint, it gets people involved. From the resort standpoint, one thing it does really well is it gives mom and dad something to do with the kids, and then dad and maybe mom can go out and play golf the next morning. In other words, they'll play Saturday afternoon with the kids, and then dad's done his deal. He can go play on Sunday morning. You know what I'm saying? So it created some opportunity, and it's been highly successful, and it built customer, satisfaction. I mean, customers they felt like we were doing something to address their needs instead of just saying, well, it's the championship course, it's $103 to play, and, have you played before? Do you, because we get that. So it's difficult. Questions? Yes, sir.
Jim, what about the long putter? How do you feel about that? I know what the USGA thinks about it.
Yeah.
But in terms of older people being able
Yeah.
to play, it seems to me that they made a decision that was anti people playing golf.
Yeah. The PGA of America came out with a stance that we were against banning the anchored putter. We surveyed our base, and our members overwhelmingly felt it was not in the best interest of the sport to ban the anchoring. It's been a legal stroke for 600 years, and we didn't support it. Now, we do support the USGA making the rules of golf. We think that's their responsibility. We've tried to work with them. It has gone into effect in 2016, and we support what the USGA does. Off the record, my personal belief is that guys who, unless they're playing in an event where they can't use it, they're going to use it anyway. They're going to agree with their buddies to use it. I mean, I think the guys on tour, Keegan Bradley, he'll figure it out. He'll adjust. The guys on tour will adjust. The guy at XYZ golf course in the middle of Maine somewhere, he's going to use his putter, and his buddies are going to rib him until his buddies use it, and then they won't rib him anymore. So it's still going to happen. I mean, it'd be nice if everybody played by all the rules. It'd be nice, but we know they don't.
But in club events, that's where I see a problem.
That's going to be interesting, and clubs are going to be faced with that decision. Each club is going to have to decide, what they want to do on that. I mean, a club can say that we're going to allow it at our club, but then, by the rules, they're not supposed to post those as scores for handicap. So we'll have to get the handicap police out, and we'll be all set. Any more questions? I know we're out of time. You're probably all hungry. I am. Anyway, thank you. I hope I didn't offend anybody. I have a different way of sort of looking at this, and I think that if we don't do something, if we don't change the way we think, we're going to continue to struggle. So let's get out there and get some friends to play golf. That might be a good start right there. Thanks.